This podcast is going to be about Star Trek and Star Wars.
So why do you think Star Trek's better?
There's many reasons actually. One of them is that people are working on the technology from Star Trek right now to make it real. There's people working on developing phasers,
Okay.
transporters, I believe, as well as translators, like in Star Trek.
Imagine having like lightsabers be a real thing. That would be awesome. I'm just saying.
More likely not.
I don't know.
And they also have better, cool designs of starships.
But I do say I love Star Trek's music. Both
Best composers ever.
I don't know if he's the best. Williams a genius and Hanzo's also a genius.
There's multiple actually different composers.
Oh, okay. I did like Beyond. Star Trek Beyond was pretty good.
And that's a J.J. Abrams film, which a lot of people don't consider it canon, more or less.
So I did used to watch like the
Because
old
it's an
Star Trek.
alternative timeline. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, there's actually.
While you think there is like the Star Wars, like the first three is amazing. Like the New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi is great. Force Awakens was all right, but after Last Jedi and Return of Skywalker, absolute dog doo doo.
I'm trying to think how many there are in total Star Trek series.
Now, like Star Wars have the Mandalorian series and all that. Those were really good. I love the Mandalorian and like the Book of Boba. That was pretty good. I don't know, like I haven't watched the full thing of Clone Wars. I'm on that. Like I'm like working on it. But what I've seen so far is it's pretty good.
There's about 10 Star Trek series and 10 movies.
Yeah, so Star Trek is huge. Star Wars is I don't think it's not as huge, but it does have more huge fan base than Star Trek. Maybe.
There's Star Trek conventions everywhere in the world.
I actually like want to go to
a lot of people go to.
Right.
There's three prequel series before the other ones. There's Star Trek Enterprise, which involves Captain Archer and the first Enterprise, NX-01, launched in 2150s.
Yeah. When
Starfleet was first chartered and first time humans have gone into deep space.
Yeah.
For exploration.
So what was the main ship called again? I can never remember.
Enterprise.
Enterprise. Okay. Which one's better, the Enterprise or the Millennium Falcon? Put it in the comments.
But there's also different variants of the Enterprise.
That's also true.
There's the NX-01 Enterprise, which is just the saucer section with the nacelles.
Okay.
Then in Star Trek Discovery, Strange New Worlds. Sorry. Anyways, then in Star Trek Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek the Animated Series, there's the Constitution class Enterprise.
Yeah.
NCC 1701. Then in the movies, the first 6 movies, there's, or 5 at least.
That one is probably the one I know
because
it's one of the movies.
The Constitution class refit.
Yeah, that's the one I know.
NCC 1701-A. Then there's the Excelsior class Enterprise.
Yeah.
The Ambassador class. Then of the most famous of the Enterprises, besides the Constitution class under Captain James T. Kirk, in the prime timeline that is the Galaxy class. One of the biggest ships built for Starfleet has over 1,000 people on it. It's basically a starbase, and live on starbase more or less. It has families, holodecks, everything. Then you got the Sovereign class Enterprise, more of a war type ship.
Yeah,
even though Starfleet's more exploration, not war, military. Then you got the Enterprise F. I cannot remember the class. I think Odyssey.
Yes.
Then, if you watch Star Trek Picard Season 3, at the last episode, The Last Generation, Episode 10, shows, and that whole season has a new Constitution class, the Neo-Constitution class, or Constitution Class 3, which was originally the Type A, but rechristened to the USS Enterprise NCC 1701-G.
That's a long name.
Enterprise than just the registry.
Yeah.
But the Enterprise is the flagship. It's always been the flagship of the Federation.
Yeah.
There's other series that have the Enterprise in it, but not based on a starship, on that starship. There's Discovery, which in the first 2 episodes, it doesn't even take place on the actual Discovery. USS Discovery, NCC 1031. It happens on the USS Shenzhou.
Yeah.
Then it goes to Discovery. Deep Space Nine is not centered on a starship at all. It's on a space station in the Bajoran space.
Yeah.
Was formerly known as Terranok Nor, or how you pronounce the Cardassian name.
So let's think about this. So, looking at the dates where they came out, Star Wars came out in 77. But Star Trek came out in 66.
Yes.
So, makes me think, as a Star Wars, did they take some of the ideas? Like, think about, like, a Millennium Falcon has not, like, what the Emperor, you know what I mean? That has, but a little bit more smaller. Like, they have both this theme of space.
Yes.
More, like, were they both kind of focused on war, but it's how they
No.
do. No?
Star Trek is not focused on war.
Okay.
It's focused on our future.
Oh.
Like
okay.
Nichelle Nichols
Yeah.
being the first black woman to have a main role
Go
on
her.
a star on TV.
Yeah.
And back during the 1960s, with Martin Luther King trying to make it equal with
Yeah.
black and
Yes.
white, that Star Trek, the original series with Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Nahara Uhura. Yeah, I can't pronounce her name right.
That's all right. I can't speak at the. I can't.
Her name's just odd.
Yeah.
Just our character.
That's coming from the Frizzell.
Yes. And she was the first black woman on TV
Yeah.
in a role on the bridge as the communication officer. And she also was the first to have an interracial kiss on TV as well,
Yeah.
as in one of the episodes with Captain Kirk.
All right.
Without people, and I've watched on YouTube and on Women in Motion, like how she helped
Yeah.
the NASA and whatnot, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked to Nichelle at a Star Trek convention or thing that she was at.
Yeah.
And he told her not to quit Star Trek after the first season, to keep going. Because she's showing the world and black people mainly
She's influencing them and
Yes.
trying to
saying
Hey,
that
that's a good
black
idea.
people
Yeah.
can do this and everything. Star Trek is focused on trying to show them
what our future can be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
and it's sci-fi, science
I
fiction.
love sci-fi stuff. But out of question, off topic,
Of course.
Lord of the Rings, I'm just saying is art.
I don't watch it, and I will never watch Lord of the Rings. My old bus driver on the other hand, Mark Tanner, he would.
Oh, I love Lord of the Rings. It's so beautiful. But okay, back on Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if you think about this, they're the goal of Star Trek is about the future, while Star Wars is about war and fixing good versus evil.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, when Lucas was looking at it, the writers of Star Wars, they were looking at Greek stuff with the good versus evil, which surprised me. I'm like, hey. this
Well,
actually-
there's also Greek mythology in Star Trek, the original series. There's an episode with Apollo
yeah.
in it, and this and that. Yeah. But Kirk tells him that they've outgrown them and everything, the Greek gods. But he at first wasn't listening. He's trying to make them do what he wants them to do, even though they've outgrown them.
Yeah.
And it took them destroying his building thing from ancient Greek mythology, for him to realize that the other Greek gods, were right, and then he disappears. They beam back up aboard the Enterprise and leave.
Yeah.
But and Gene Roddenberry he is the best TV show creator I've seen, like for science fiction.
So I haven't seen much. I don't like watch most TV shows. I do watch a crap ton of movies though. Hence why
I watch more TV shows than movies.
yeah, and Star Trek was originally a TV show, so
Yeah,
like, it makes sense. Yeah.
There's 10 movies. The first 6 deal with the crew of the original series.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, Bones,
Yeah.
Scotty, Uhura, Spock,
Yeah.
all that.
He's probably one of my favorite characters. He's probably my favorite.
He's actually, if you watch the like the Star Trek Enterprise before, like
Yeah, the pre-sequels.
yeah, Spock ain't actually the first Vulcan to serve aboard a starship in Starfleet.
Yeah.
He's actually the second
Interesting.
after Subcommander T'Pol, who originally was only supposed to be on there for a short trip from taking a Klingon back to Kronos, the Klingon's home world, but ends up staying on for the whole series.
Yeah.
And yeah,
See, like Star Trek has a lot more to it, but Star Wars, I feel like they can add a lot more if they kept the same like story. Like, no offense to those Rey fans, I don't like Rey. Finn, I like Finn. He's pretty cool. And Kylo Ren, I think he's the big baby.
Star Trek 7 through 10 deals with the Star Trek: The Next Generation crew.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk, Commander William Riker, Deanna Troi, Dr. Crusher, Geordi LaForge, Data, the android, who, and actually in season 3 of Star Trek Picard, when they find him at the Daystrom Institute, where Picard's body was stolen from,
Yeah.
you have to watch it to understand that,
I'll try
by
to
the
watch it.
Borg. And even though Starfleet is a exploratory,
You got this. You got this.
exploring body and scientific, they only go build warships like when major threats come to the galaxy, i.e. the Borg, when they tried to assimilate everybody into their collective. Then you got the Dominion War that's covered in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. I do have a question. So you know how Star Wars have the Force, or like have like some like thing that's like representing lightsabers and the Force. That's like Star Wars. What is like some like key points of Star Trek that is like, oh, this is why this is Star Trek? Like the improvise. Oh my, I can.
They use like the technology that's there can be achieved now, as long as people work on it. I think I even seen somewhere where they're working on warp capable engines.
Yeah, they should make teleporters. I'm just saying.
Transporters,
cool.
you mean?
Transporter. You know what I mean.
Yeah. A lot of people love Star Trek because it shows what our future could be like.
Yeah.
And in Star Trek, it does mention that even though we didn't actually go through it, we could eventually go into a third world war. Because that's what they did.
It's called My Brother and Sister. That's my favorite right there. 1, 2, 3.
There's World War I, World War II, then Eugenics War, and then just they end up finally calling it, or the Civil War, Eugenics War, and then just end up calling it World War III.
Yeah.
The planet, half the population of people and animals, whatever, died, but they rebuilt to what it is. And it's covered in Star Trek Strange New Worlds first season.
Yeah.
There have been different actors actually play Spock.
I don't know which the one I like. I'm sure.
Leonard Nimoy,
Maybe.
the original Spock from Star Trek: The Original Series. If it's the original series Star Trek Spock, then that's who it is. There's Zachary Quinto. I forget which one Yeah, he played in the J.J. Abrams film as Spock, as well as Leonard Nimoy in the first movie. Then there's Ethan Peck, who plays Spock in Star Trek Discovery Season 2
There's so many Spocks.
and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. There's T'Pol, who
Ethan Peck. Ethan Peck's the one I like.
That's Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Spock.
Yeah. I do like the original series ones too.
Leonard Nimoy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a good actor. Live long and prosper. There's also Tuvok, played by Tim Russ in Star Trek Voyager. And actually, in Star Trek Voyager, she's one of the few female captains that is shown. There's Captain Georgiou in Discovery, and then there's Captain Burnham in Discovery, like later season 4 and 5. There's also then Captain Janeway. But there was an actually female captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
The USS Enterprise, NCC 1701C, the Ambassador class, under the captaincy of Captain Rachel Garrett. And there's usually not. She was the first female captain of an Enterprise, and there hasn't been one since. Oh, wait, no, that's a lie. Captain 709 from Star Trek Voyager. She becomes captain of the Enterprise G in Star Trek Picard Season 3.
Yeah.
Last episode.
All right.
There's also Star Trek Prodigy, Star Trek Lower Decks. Lower Decks, I've watched a little bit of it. Hate it.
It's like the new Star Wars movies.
I like Star Trek, but Star Trek Lower Decks is not that good.
There's both pros and cons of Star Wars. Like, there's like some really good Star Wars shows, movies, like Mandalorian or like Empire. I love Empire Strikes Back.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I love Darth Vader. Darth Vader's my favorite character.
Mm.
And then so there's like some in Star Trek. There's like some movies are like
The
it's
J.J.
alright.
Abrams films are a bit rocky, especially because, well, they're in an alternative timeline where Captain Kirk's dad actually dies in the very first movie,
Yeah.
Star Trek. And he skips through the academy, and yeah. Star Trek Prodigy is okay. It's after Voyager.
All right.
It takes place after Voyager.
I've not seen most of these shows or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It has Janeway is actually an admiral.
Yeah.
By that time, even in Star Trek Picard, she's an admiral.
Yeah.
But she's also, they used her for the training hologram on the Protostar, which is what the first season is about, like where these kids on this planet, these different species, come aboard the Protostar and able to talk to each other and communicate, and go fly to Earth to Starfleet to join them to represent their home world and whatnot. Even though one of the characters, Dal, I think his name is, he's was originally he was accepted in the Starfleet, but technically he could have been rejected because Starfleet has these rules that say if you have like genetic modifications, you technically can't be in Starfleet. Like Dr. Bashir in Deep Space Nine was taken somewhere to get these genetic modifications done where he's smarter than most people. And he was allowed to stay in Starfleet by his dad going to jail, basically.
Yeah.
For a year or two. Same thing with Una Chen Riley in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. She's, I can't think of the species, but she was genetically modified, basically.
Yeah.
Because of her species. And she lied on her application, and she was arrested for it. But in the second season, the first couple episodes show where Captain Pike, the second Captain Enterprise after Captain Robert April, gave her asylum aboard the Enterprise and Starfleet aboard the Enterprise from her home world because she was treated differently. And her attorney actually, Illyrians is what her species is. They're not they're genetically modified, so they technically can't be in part of the Federation because of their genetic modifications and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it was overruled because of these things that were set in place. Captain Pike gave her asylum.
Yeah.
So all the charges were dropped against her, and she being back aboard the Enterprise with her commission still in Starfleet. And they were, it showed that they need to look at their rules to fix it, to make it more fair.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair that everybody else can join, but like Illyrians, where they're genetically modified, where they have these powers or whatever, can't.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, I get it.
But with Una Chang's Illyrian powers that she has, she's able to help her crew as well survive from, that was shown in one of the episodes, actually where she goes to Captain Pike and tells him she's resigning her commission because she's an Illyrian and she lied on her Starfleet application. But he refused and said that she is the best number one, is what they call their first officers in Star Trek, that's in the fleet.
Yeah.
And you could say that about Commander William Riker. When Captain Picard was captured by the Borg, he was promoted to captain. But as soon as Picard came back, he went back to being commander and passed up captaincies for a while until he was told if he doesn't take this captaincy, he won't get promoted again. He won't get the rank of captain because he kept passing it over because he liked being on the Enterprise. Galaxy class, who would want to give up being the first officer on the biggest starship in space, the flagship of the Federation, for the captaincy of the Titan or whatever starship?
Yeah. I would not give it up. I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah, but he did. In Star Trek Picard, season 3, it showed he was captain of the Titan before Captain Liam Shaw, who is a direct face, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And that's it for now. Next episode be about Star Wars only.
See you next time.